some nice tabla work, and of course a great rhythm guitar work of Richie Havens, whose birthday is today. Title track to his album from just a few years ago, By the Grace of the Sun. I'm Martin Anderson down in Studio B. We're coming up on the 101st birthday of one of our favorite guitarists, Django Reinhardt from France. We've got a show happening this weekend in our area up in Asheville. Sunday night, it's another birthday celebration. And the band that'll be there that's here today is Viper's Dream. They are from Asheville, and they are live on WNCW. We got some familiar faces and voices here, and some folks that haven't been here before. Dan Bletz, first got to know you through the Biscuit Burners, here doing Django, sitting in Django's seat. How's that feel? Whoa.
Loving it.
Cool. And it's a two-guitar quintet. We love that. Stephen Shealy doing the rhythm guitar work. Welcome. Adam Masters doing some fine fiddle work. How's it feel to be in the shoes of the great Stefan Grappelli?
It's a lot of practice. It's a ton of fun.
Takes a lot of practice.
Inspiring.
Yeah. Adam Masters, and I should say all these folks are from the Asheville area, I think. Carrie Fridley here on bass.
Hi.
Welcome back, Ms.
Thank
Fridley.
you.
And we got Dave Keister, a great jazz drummer here on our Studio B kit. They are Viper's Dream, and they have a new release called Awake, which was apparently Django. That was Django. What Django means.
Correct, yeah.
From the work of Django Reinhardt, who was born this Sunday back in 1910 in Belgium. I was wrong. He's not a French native. He's Belgium, but spent most of his life in France. And your work here in Viper's Dream is all about this great work of Django Reinhardt, an amazing jazz guitarist from France, Belgium, worked with Stefan Grappelli for that great gypsy jazz sound. And how did you all get into it? Because I should mention that, three of the five of you are we know you at least through your more Appalachian mountain music roots. How did you discover this great Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli?
Always loved the music, moved to Asheville and just fell into the bluegrass scene, and then had played it on the side ever since. And then got the opportunity to play with Dan and Carrie and Dave and Steven, and loved it ever since.
Yeah, cool.
And I was a Tony clone for a long time.
Yeah.
Tony Rice, that is.
And so I went to Barnes and Noble one day and just started looking for new guitar players, and that was the first one I listened to. I heard what song was it? Rose Room by Django. I said, I want to learn how to play that music.
Interesting. I mean, he is a phenomenal guitarist, and just one of those watershed artists in terms of kind of creating a style. It's a great blend of two of our favorite styles, jazz and acoustic kind of roots music that a lot of folks have adopted. This Django Reinhardt sound kind of came into being in the Western swing sound, got adapted in the Western swing, which then, of course, was a big influence in country music. So it's all interconnected, I guess is what I'm saying. And you guys have made all sorts of neat connections with the styles of music you do, and Viper's Dream. So a new release, huh? All Django stuff?
All Django stuff fresh off the press as of Monday.
All right.
There's one original tune on there.
There is an original? Dave says, the drummer. Okay, cool. But this new release recorded in Asheville, I guess?
Oh, we recorded it in Madison County, actually, at my studio at home, and we had a Chris Rosser from Hollow Reed Studios in West Asheville mix it for us. So, collaborative effort.
All right, good. That's Adam Masters talking to the fiddler today. And John Corbin helped to organize last year's big 100th birthday show, and you're doing it this time. John Corbin, great player, guitar with the Firecracker Jazz Band and various other things, and now you're at it again for the second annual Django celebration.
We just had so much fun last year, Martin. It wasn't even a question to make it an annual thing. We had a blast last year. There was a great crowd, and it kind of surprised all of us as to how many people that appreciate Django's music there were that turned out for that show. And so, we're going to do it again this year. We're going to have a blast and honor the spirit and music of Django Reinhardt on his birthday. Yeah, right, on his actual birthday this Sunday. Showtime is when, and then what's the order of? 7 p.m., and the order of the bands is maybe yet to be determined, but we've got one leg up, of course, a great Django Hot Club band that's been here in Asheville for a long time. Musette Guitars is coming up from Charlotte and Boone. They're absolutely incredible, with Andy Page on the guitar. We've got a band called Gambrinus with Bill Cardine and Jay Sanders, some of the Acoustic Syndicate guys, and they're going to do what sounds like a pretty far-out tribute to Django, but I can't wait to hear it. Yeah. And of course, this fantastic band, Viper's Dream, here, and all sorts of special guests and such. So we're going to have another big old party, Martin.
Cool, cool. Well, I would love to talk a little bit about the history of the life of this great Django Reinhardt. I mean, his music speaks for himself as being intriguing, but there are a couple really neat kind of components of his life that are also fascinating.
Yeah.
And I know there's some interesting books out. I still got to get my hands on one of some biographies of Django out there.
His life and music really came from a really unique set of circumstances, and he's just kind of a freak in the universe because of it. And I think first, you know, his upbringing as a Romani gypsy, you know, which is a race of people in Europe descended from the Middle East that are just travelers and live very medieval primitive lifestyle and are terrified of science and things like that. You know, that's part of his culture, and then also another circumstance was a terrible handicap that he had. He was already a great musician, playing a banjo guitar, and there was a terrible fire in his caravan one night, and his fretting hand became burned and paralyzed, and to the point that he could only really use 2 fingers on his fretting hand for soloing at least, and you know, it was really painful, but he rehabilitated and invented a new way to play the guitar out of that circumstance, and just it's just brilliant. And there's a little bit of footage, you know, showing him playing with 2 fingers out there, a little video footage, and it's just mind blowing.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, we got some guitarists here. You all are string musicians. Is it amazing that someone with just kind of a couple usable fingers on their left hand can still fret and play like he did?
And really, the other thing that makes me think of Django as such a remarkable guitar player is he didn't have any jazz guitar players to listen to before him. He was it. He hadn't heard Eddie Lang until after he had already surpassed him musically. Everything he was coming up with was of his own creation.
Yeah, we should note this historically. There wasn't a lead acoustic guitar role beforehand that I know of. He basically invented bringing what was quote unquote just a rhythm guitar into the lead with solos and stuff. And it was in the days before amplification, so there's no way to just whip out the old electric guitar and wail.
Yeah, nobody was doing what he was doing, and in a lot of respects, nobody was doing what he was doing, and
so he kind of created this format of him backed by a couple rhythm guitars and a bass. And I mean, where did this arrangement come from, and where do you think he got this? You know, like, I'm tired of the guitar being in the background. I'm going to do lead with this.
I think the gypsies would do their gypsy music like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to look into that. I guess that is the case. There is a film out. I always think of this Lachodrome. Any of you seen it?
Oh, yeah, great.
It's a documentary.
Awesome.
There's no narration, no words. It's just tracing the music and the culture of the gypsies' aroma from India through on up into Eastern Europe and then ending down in France and Spain. You think of the Gypsy Kings today, you know, that sound, and it's just fascinating. And it shows, you know, the music of course at the forefront.
It really is, and you can that especially in that movie, you can see the connections between the really early, really kind of gypsy folk, you know, rhythms and stuff where they show the bands of gypsies out in the desert playing, and then the gypsy jazz at the end. But you can still hear the same scales and weird tones and rhythms right through it all.
Yeah,
and there's a cultural link for sure.
So Django Reinhardt and Stéphane Grappelli, the great violinist, they got together to this Hot Club of France sound. We're talking the 1930s, the 40s. So the war broke out. Mostly in the 30s. World War II kind of put a hiatus on things, of course, but Django, most of it moved to England, but Django moved back to France.
Yes, Stefan went to England, and Django stayed in Paris, and he stayed there through the war, which was very tough being a gypsy in World War II.
They were persecuted as much as Jews, homosexuals, other religions.
They reunited the quintet after the war, but their best work was definitely before the war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. After the war, Django and Stéphane Grappelli still played and stuff. Django ended up coming to the United States, played with Duke Ellington, his band, and played electric guitar, right?
He did, and I don't know if he was meaning to do that. It's kind of a funny story. He had Django really thought he was the biggest star in the universe, and he assumed when he got to the United States, the guitar companies would be presenting him with guitars that it would be their honor for him to play, and he showed up at the gig without a guitar, and Duke Ellington said, "You did what?" Here, play this.
And what they had was an electric. Yeah, and but he ended up reuniting with Stefan Grappelli and did some great recordings before Django Reinhardt died in 1953, I think. And is it another guitarist, Borelli Lagrène? Who's that?
He's a guy that he got famous as a kid as well when he was maybe 12 or 13, copying Django's style, and he was just sort of like the best one that could do it, even at that age. And then as he got a little older in his later teens, what's that bass player, Dave?
Jaco Pastorius.
Jaco. He met up with Jaco and teamed up with him and learned a lot of like sort of crazy, really far out there fusion jazz sort of stuff. And then now he's sort of come back to gypsy jazz and taken all this stuff he's learned and just does his own thing, and it's amazing.
So here you are coming from a largely more bluegrass Appalachian background. Adam Masters on the fiddle here, the violin, also mostly bluegrass, Bobby Hicks stuff? Or?
Bobby Hicks, Arvil Freeman, studied with both of them for years, so
yeah.
I love the freedom of this music.
Well, being a Madison County boy, I would imagine the old time, the work of Arvil Freeman
absolutely
is strong with you. And so yeah, like I say, it's interesting that some Appalachian roots musicians are doing this Django sound. So, but Dan, you wrote this tune with it's this wild chord structures and interesting note choices. And to what extent though does the bluegrass or old time background of yours influence how you write or perform this?
It's always there, It's always. That I grew up with that just in the house, as probably most of us have, and just always bluegrass. And so even when I'm learning gypsy jazz, I always relate it to what I know musically with everything that I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it all kind of ties back to the roots of the Appalachian sound and the bluegrass side of it.
Would someone, a real scholar, kind of be able to notice like, this has kind of like a little old timer kind of Appalachian kind of thing in what they do, next to a more traditional, I guess, hot club? What do you think?
Sometimes, I quote fiddle tunes, like I quoted Cluck Old Hen in the first song we played. So,
I missed it.
To the astute ear, I'm sure they would notice our
a little
tune
twang
history.
comes out now and then.
Yeah.
Even in the notes. Yeah.
I mean, we can't help it. As hard as we try to erase it, it's in there.
No, why try? I think it's a great kind of blending. Stephen, today is a big day for rhythm guitars. Richie Havens' birthday is today. John Doyle, just this great kind of, not just rhythm, but very percussive guitarist. And the rhythm guitar is pretty important with this style of music in general. Yeah, and maybe kind of talk about that, because, the lead guitar work, the great picking that Dan does, that whoever's sitting in Django's seat, that spotlight's going to be on them. But where would the sound be without the rhythm guitar? It's pretty important.
Well, that's a good question and a good statement. But at the same time, we provide the foundation for those guys to go get what they feel and go play those notes. And Dan Masters do a great job of it, and it's an honor to be able to lay down that rhythm foundation for Viper's Dream.
Yeah, so you're doing a lot of kind of listening to what they're doing, and working with that, but vice versa as well. You're having to. How much room for improvisation do you put in? Is it really like?
We stick to very straightforward arrangements. So
okay.
my responsibility is to make sure those guys have what they need to play.
Well put.
So there it is in a nutshell.
He's our linebacker.
Yes.
And boys, how's he do? What kind of grade you give him?
He's an A+ every time.
Very good, very good. Yeah, in most bands of various styles, it's the bass and the drums that provide that foundation, but this sound, the rhythm guitar is equally important, it sounds like. But you also do have a very, very knowledged jazz percussionist here with Dave Keister, it sounds like. It's very light touch, no big crazy John Bonham drum solos or anything. It's a nice,
it's hard
brush
for
on
Dave.
the snare.
Dave has to be restrained because he knows so much.
I just got a flash of Animal from the Muppet Show on the drums. There's maybe a similarity.
Ooh,
what do you think,
this is his new nickname.
Is that his nickname?
It is now.
It is now.
have a really big drum kit.
Yeah, he had a big drum kit and this little kid.
You just throw a stick, it hits something.
L'Animal is his nickname in this band, Viper's Dream. Fun to have you guys in here. Great to learn, of course, about Django and to celebrate his birthday, but really nice to know about the work you all do with this band. And I'm really excited to hear this, that you have a new release called Awake. That got to take the cellophane off, and we'll start playing it here on WNCW. Viper's Dream, Stephen Shealy on the rhythm guitar, Adam Masters on the violin, Dan Bletz on the Django lead guitar, Carrie Fridley holding up the bass and singing as well, and Dave L'Animal Keister on the drums. Thanks, guys, so much for coming on in here.
Thank you.
This
Thank you
has
for
been
having
fun.
us.
Thank you. Been a
And
blast.
and we've had John Watson Video Productions here taping this, so look for videos of this and catching the nimble guitar finger work of Dan Bletz and the great fiddling from Adam and all soon on our YouTube page. I'm Martin Anderson, and so we'll go from Hot Club of France to Hot Club of Cowtown. New one from these guys on WNCW.
You ought to see my blue-eyed Sally. She lives way down on Chimbo Alley. The number on the gate and the number on the door. The next house over is a grocery store.